This is Angie from Knitwegian, and I'm going to be demonstrating how to knit the 1/4 left cross with double wrap. First, I'll demonstrate how to do this cable with a cable needle and then how to do it without. Feel free to look in the description below this video for the timestamp if you want to skip straight to a demonstration without a cable needle or to see it in the continental knitting style straight away. I'm going to be first demonstrating it with the English or throwing or picking style as it's called, because that's what I learned to knit in and I feel the most comfortable in. Alright, so we're at the cable section now, and let me just knit the first 3 stitches. Okay, so you can hold that in the front, slip the slip stitch from the previous round onto the cable needle and hold that in the front. Then insert, we were going to make the double wrap or the elongated stitch, so insert your right needle into that stitch, double wrap that, pull both the wraps and the needle through that stitch to finish off knitting that. Knit the next 3 stitches, and then we'll knit from the cable needle. So pull that up, and I like my cables to lie, or these cable stitches anyway, to lie flat. So in order to do it like that, I'm going to just knit through the back loop. And there you have it. So I'll demonstrate that again. Let me just knit to the cable section again. Okay, so we're there now. Just get to my slip stitch. So there's my slip stitch. I'm going to stick that on the cable needle and hold it in the front. Now the next stitch needs to be a double wrap stitch, so insert your right needle, wrap the yarn around the needle twice, pull both wraps and the needle through as you knit that stitch. Knit the next 3 stitches, and now we'll knit this stitch from the cable needle. So I want to lie it flat, so I'll do it through the back loop again. And there you have it. Now I'll demonstrate how to do it without a cable needle, and I just find it quicker, and I don't have to worry about losing my cable needle when I'm out and about, or leaving it at home, or if I've lost it, what do I do then? It's just, but most of all, it's just a lot quicker, which I really like. Okay, so all I do is I just drop that stitch off that needle, insert my right needle through to make that double wrap stitch, wrap it around twice the yarn, pull those wraps and the needle through that stitch to finish it off. Knit the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, pick up that drop stitch or live stitch, whatever you want to call it, and yes, it looks like I need to knit through the back loop with the way I've picked that up to make that lie flat. So it might seem scary to have that stitch just loose, live like that without being on the needles, but you shouldn't have any issue with it as our movements are quite contained. And I know with this yarn, Malabrigo Rios, it holds quite well while I'm doing this. I haven't had any stitches fall off yet. And the only thing is you might need to take a bit of care with doing that if your yarn is slippery, like if it has some silk content. Right, I'll show you that again, and then I'll show you a little trick that I do, but I'll first just show you that drop stitch again. Okay, so just get to that slip stitch and then drop that stitch and to keep it in the front. Now to make the double wrap stitch, insert the right needle, wrap the yarn around twice and pull both wraps and the needle through to finish off that stitch. Knit the next 3 stitches. And pick up that drop stitch with my needle, and I'll be knitting through the back loop again. There you go. Right, now I've got a little bit of a trick that for me seems to help go a little faster again, and also I've only got 3 stitches to knit while that drop stitch is live as opposed to 4. I'll just get to that section again, my pattern. Birds are carrying on in the background. Okay, so now instead of dropping that stitch straight away, I actually insert my needle behind that stitch and knit that second stitch straight away by wrapping that yarn around it twice, pull through the needle, and as I pull that needle or that stitch off the needle, it forces that slip stitch to drop off the needle. And now I only need to knit 3 more stitches while that stitch is live rather than 4, and it's not that elongated one, so if you struggle with that, you're at least doing all of that while that slip stitch is still on the needle. I'll pick it up and I'll knit that through the back loop. I'll show that to you one more time. There's an Australian kookaburra you're hearing now. I love that sound. All right, so here we go. Knit those 3. And then there's your slip stitch that you need to drop. But instead of dropping it, I'll just put my needle through. So I'll show that again. You basically come behind, put your needle in, same way as to knit, wrap that yarn around twice, knit, you can see how that's going through behind that stitch, drop that, and now we'll do the last 3 stitches. And it might look a bit tricky when you first see it, but you quickly get used to it and actually really speeds things up. There you go. So next I'll be demonstrating the Continental knitting style, sorry. Okay, so now the Continental style. So first with the cable needle, with the 1/4 left cross with double wrap. So there's my stitch there. I'll just slip that onto the cable needle, hold that in front, and now the first stitch is going to be double wrapped, so insert the right needle into that stitch, double wrap the yarn around the needle and pull both wraps and the needle through as you finish knitting that stitch. Knit the last 3 stitches. And now to knit with my cable needle. And have your stitch, and I've knitted it so that it stays flat. That can end up twisting, so you might like it like that, but I prefer it flat. So just take care of that when you knit. You might need to knit through the back loop or through the front, depending on how your stitch has landed onto your needle. For the most part, for me, I find it needs to be knit through the back loop. All right, let me demonstrate that again. Just get to that section of my pattern. All right, so there's our stitch there that was slipped from the previous round. So I'll just put that onto the cable needle. So slip that slip stitch onto the cable needle and hold it in the front. Now this next stitch needs to be a double wrap stitch. So insert your right needle, double wrap that yarn and pull both wraps and the needle through when you finish that stitch. Knit the next 3 stitches, and now it's time to knit from the cable needle. So bring that up and yes, knit through the back loop, and there's the cable stitch knitted. All right, now I'll try to show that to you without the cable needle. I just find it's much better to work without a cable needle. It's faster. It's one less thing to carry around with you if you like to take your project out with you, and you're less likely to lose it too when you're out and about. You don't need it for the pattern if you can knit without the cable needle. So all I do is, I know it might seem scary to let that stitch drop, but I find that you shouldn't really have any issues with this because our movements are quite contained, and this yarn Malabrigo Rios is really great. It holds quite well while I'm doing this, but you might need to take extra care if you're working with a slippery yarn, like something with silk content. So drop that stitch off the front, and now insert that right needle, wrap the yarn around twice to make the double wrapped stitch, pull both wraps through with that needle as you finish that knit stitch. Knit the next 3. See, that's still fine, it's not slipping out, still enough of a loop there. Knit my next 3 stitches, and now pick up that dropped stitch, that live stitch, pull it nicely and knit through the back loop to keep it nice and flat. Okay, that's my stitch marker on the table, sorry about that. Now I'm going to show you another little trick that I do that makes it go a bit quicker, and it reduces the stitches that I need to knit while I've got that drop stitch hanging there by 1. So it just feels like it's a bit less chance of it unraveling. All right, so there's my stitch. Now instead of dropping it off straight away, I insert my needle behind the stitch so that it can get to that next stitch over there and knit that like you normally knit. So I just put that needle from front to back, and now this is one of those the double wrapped or elongated stitches. So I wrap the stitch twice and pull it through, and as I'm dropping or taking that stitch off the needle, I drop that stitch. And so why I like that is because you're moving the needles around a bit more when you're double wrapping it, but by keeping that stitch on the needle, it just feels like, okay, a little bit less chance of it unraveling. I feel like it's a bit more secure, and I feel like it goes faster. It might feel a bit awkward now while I'm showing it, and the first few times you do it, it might feel a bit awkward, but it actually really does go quite quickly once you get the hang of it. I'll show you that one more time. Okay, so there's my slip stitch from the previous round. I'll just insert my needle into that, behind that slip stitch. Instead of pulling it off, I just twist my needle to get into that second stitch to knit it normally. But now I'm going to wrap the yarn around twice, pull it through, and take both stitches off the needle. Right at the last 3, and pull that stitch up, and just from the way I've pulled it up, I'll knit through the back loop. And there you have it. There's your cable crossed over to the left. Thank you for watching.